Attention, bobsled riders! You will soon be embarking on a thrilling podcast down the icy slopes of the Matterhorn. So please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the bobsled at all times. Auf Wiedersehen!
Hello, Yodelers! We are the Matterhorn Yodelers. I am your host today, Jackie, and we have...
Japheth.
And...
Exhausted.
And today's episode is we're going to be talking... Peter...
Yes.
Went on...
AKA Exhausted.
Exhausted,
yeah.
Went on a trip to Disneyland. How exciting!
Disneyland.
You went to Disneyland, and you went with how many people?
At one point, I think our highest number was like 20... It was either 26 or 28 people.
That's a big group.
Yeah. Like, there was a part where, like, you know, like... So I was there for 5 days. But not everyone in the party was there for 5 days. So, like, in one half of the week, we had some family, and then the other half of the week, we had other family. So, but we were around in the 20s range of people in our party.
And so we're going to be talking about Peter's experience going to Disney with a large group.
Right.
Of all ages. You got old, you got young.
Yes, and this is going to be great because I know many of our listeners were people that went on this trip, and so they're going to hear me go, oh my gosh, there's this one person that did this, and messed everything
I bet your
up.
banana was the worst.
She was the worst.
That's right, Captain Kangaroo calling you out.
She's not listening.
She will after this.
Her mom will be like, oh, you were mentioned.
All right, so let's start off day one. What was your overall strategy for the day?
So on Monday, we were going to Disneyland Park, the Magic Kingdom that day. There was the strategy was, my goal was to try to keep us together as long as possible, which I think I was pretty successful at, orchestrating, because there was a lot of people that hadn't really gone or don't really know what to do and how to navigate. There were people there that did and did know things, but they were okay staying in a group. One of the things that's difficult when it comes to traveling in groups is compromise.
Yeah, you need a leader, and people
Correct.
have to compromise to a leader.
Right. Like, if your main goal is to stay together, there needs to be a leader. And people have to be willing to listen to that leader. So my strategy for the most part was, we're going to kind of go back and forth between, like, okay, we're doing all family things now, and then we'll do like a big thrill ride where maybe some of the younger kids can't go on, but everyone else can, and then we would go and do something else as a family after that. So we did a lot of that. So, like, I felt like we did a really good job. We did the Fantasyland strategy first, where we just knocked out Fantasyland first thing in the morning, because Fantasyland midday is just chaos.
It's not fun.
It's chaos. And so to be willing to, like, knock out all of those rides so that you don't need to worry about walking through that area.
I'm a firm believer in nighttime Fantasyland.
And that's fine. Like, and that
No sun and...
But you've never gone with a young child.
I still will not. Nighttime for me. I am in charge. I've been watching King Triton, and it's like, you will do what I tell you.
So, but it was good to get that out of the way, because we did this group. The first half of the week, we had more younger children. So it was good to get them ready, because a lot of times with younger kids, they don't understand or, grasp the concept of what theme parks are, what to do. And I think starting in Fantasyland was my way to help the young kids get into that mindset of, like, okay, this is how your week's going to go.
How was the energy? Like, were all the kids excited like Christmas and all that
Oh,
going
yeah.
into it?
So
'Cause you guys all stayed in the same like hotel.
we all stayed at the same hotel, which was really cool because like we all ate breakfast together and we all walked to the parking lot buses to the parks. So like it was really cool. You know, it was one of those hard sells for a lot of people because there was definitely not a lot of morning people in the group. But I told them that it's worth it. If you're there in the morning, it is worth it. And they would. And like at the end of the day, they'd be like, oh, I don't know, I think I'm going to sleep in the next day. And they would wake up and they're like, you know what? We're ready to go. Like, we can do this. Like, it was that realization that like, if you think you, like, if you just push yourself, you'll realize you can do early morning rope drop for Disney parks. Now, to be fair, I think we're only at rope drop for 2 days out of the 5 because corralling 20 some people is difficult. But you know, there was a lot of excitement and it was good. You know, we accomplished a lot. And there were definitely lessons learned that we'll probably talk about a little bit later that translated into what we did on the next few days. But yeah, I mean, that was...
So, Genie Plus is fairly new at Disneyland.
Right.
In a large group, did you purchase Genie Plus?
So, this was something like we were constantly, me and my wife were constantly being asked about family, whether or not we were going to be paying for it or not. And we know that, you know, some members of the party, it was going to be a sacrifice because Disneyland ain't cheap. It's a sacrifice to go to the parks in general. And so like to ask, you know, certain families to ask them to pay $20 a day for fast passes per person, that's a big ask. And so, you know, we toughed it out, no fast passes at all. We almost got we almost did the Genie Plus ones.
The individual purchase.
The individual purchased ones for Spider-Man or for Radiator Springs. We kind of tossed it around for that for a little bit, but we never actually pulled the trigger. So we did solely standby, which, you know, me trying to appease everyone, I did my best to make sure we got as much as we could get done.
People want to feel like they get their money's worth.
Right.
There's always a certain amount of rides. Got to hit the major ones.
Right. And that was always my goal. It was like, I was never one advocating to re-ride rides because that means you're going to be missing out on something else.
There's so much to do.
So, and so anytime somebody would ask me, what should we do next? I would always advocate for, let's do the Tiki Room next. Or like, let's do or the Jungle Cruise. Let's do something we haven't done yet. Whereas everyone's like, we want to ride Guardians again. And it's like, all right, go ride Guardians again. You know, like you have to pick and choose, especially when you're doing standby.
Yeah. Because you just did the standby.
Right.
Correct.
Fast Pass is gone.
And I'll say this. You can hit, I would say, 80 to 90% of either park without using Fast Pass or Lightning Lane.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Like, because they always think like, oh, you need Fast Pass. We've had Fast Passes for the last 20 years, right?
Right.
And so you're just thinking like, oh, it's just ingrained in your regular trips to Disneyland. You know, I've never done one. You guys did one day with no Fast Pass, and, you know, it was great when there was no Fast Pass. But now Fast Pass is there, and now you have to pay for it.
Right.
And so that's kind of like a hard pill to kind of like swallow right there.
It really is. And so, like, and, you know, and I learned a lot because this is the first time I've ever done a Disney park without a Lightning Lane / Fast Pass. So it was definitely a learning experience for me. But this would be the caveat to that. You know, it's going to take a lot more out of you.
Mental energies.
Yes.
Tested.
So like you're going to be waiting in longer lines, which means you may not get the chance you might not get that chance to relax as much as you might want to if you're trying to get as much done as you possibly can. So that would be something you're sacrificing when it comes to not paying for the lightning lanes. But definitely, it opened my eyes because before I was kind of on that fence of like, I don't know if I really want to invest in support this new paid fast pass system, but now I'm all like, I'm totally paying for it. It was there was
Next
What's
time
the
it's-
tipping point for that decision? Is it
Yeah.
because of the implementation or the
it's
consequences
the
of
way
not?
the way they handle it now is way different than they handled it before.
They don't do ratios.
So the ratio before, I would honestly say, was probably like out of 10 guests, I would say they would do like
It was like 2 or 3.
they would do like 6, maybe 7 guests for every 3 standby. Now, honestly, I feel like they halt standby and just let Lightning Lane go through until there's no one left
Money
in that
moves.
queue. And so like I really felt that in like certain attractions like Radiator Springs Racers
Oh, that would be miserable.
and Space Mountain.
Oof.
Those two, I totally felt that
The
was
impact.
the impact of that, and Small World. That's gonna be. We'll talk about Small World later. That was a whole other story. But yeah, Small World for sure. It was you feel like the lines will take it out of you. So like your
Bring
patience,
a book, get your Kindle out there.
your patience will be tested if you're only doing standby.
So you're saying, as far as if you don't really want to spend the money or you don't have that money to spend, you can still have a good day at Disney.
And you'll get what you need.
Correct. You just have to set the expectation. I'm probably not going to get everything done off my list.
And it seems like there's more of an exhaustion. There's more
There's mental.
mental and
Yes. So
all right. So with a big group, how did you manage like the bigger rides or the little kids that couldn't ride it? Did you do rider swap or
rider swap was easily something we did multiple times. If you have small kids in your group that can't ride certain rides, take advantage of rider swap. It is honestly like one of the little best secrets.
And go over what rider swap is.
So basically, everyone goes wait in line, and then you have the person or people who are waiting with the kids who can't ride or won't ride, and they get a little pass that
You have to go up to the person in the front of
Yes.
the ride and ask them, "Hey, do you do a rider swap?" They'll say yes, and if there's a height restriction,
they
they'll
will.
say yes, and then they will give you something that indicates that you can do it.
And I will warn you this, there are some attractions that are a lot more strict about this than others. Some attractions, they'll just give you the pass willy-nilly. Other attractions, like, we need to see the child.
Yeah.
And who's waiting. Some of them are very specific. I believe Rise, they were kind of like that. They're like, okay, who's waiting? Who's the child? Like, because it's a high-demand attraction. You're going to see that.
We
I
don't
always
want
got
some
that.
tomfoolery going on here.
I always got that with Splash Mountain, although Splash Mountain wasn't open while we were there, but every time I've tried to get a rider swap with Splash, it's always been like pulling teeth with the cast members there. So,
when I dealt with like the 88 passes, we would always ask like, okay, the name on the pass says this. Who is that person? And they would be like, oh, that's my dad. He's over there. And we're like, well, he needs to be here.
Right.
Like it's that accountability thing.
yes. And so there's a lot of that. And honestly, like, if there's not as much accountability like the ADA, like, anyone can go ride again. It doesn't have to be the person who sat out. For example, we had a pregnant lady with us as part of our group. She's not going to go riding the Incredicoaster. But the pass gives you 3 people access to go through the Lightning Lane line to go through the line quickly so that you can get together back with your party quicker than if you were walking through standby.
So it is a technique that you can do with using Lightning Lane
Yes.
and not pay for it.
Correct. And
As long as you're using it properly.
So rent your children.
so like that was a way a lot of members of our party got to ride Guardians a lot and the Incredicoaster a lot. Granted, Incredicoaster, the line for that moved pretty quickly, and that one was
That one's
pretty
always
smooth.
moved quickly.
It's an efficient line because they usually have
3.
multiple
At least
coasters, and you can fit
It's
a lot
double.
of people.
It's double loading, and yeah. So, but yeah, so yeah, if you have young kids and you're dealing with groups, always get the rider swap. Even if you're not planning on using it, get it. There is a rule though: you can't get another rider swap until you've used the one that you've gotten, because they scan your ticket. So if you've got a large party, you could just change the tickets that who has the pass, but for the most part, it's basically you use it.
But who wants to spend like 3 hours or 4 hours, waiting, rewriting things, and it's just you do something once or twice and you want to go. There's a big park out there.
Right.
Now, do you recommend like setting times of like we're gonna be together from this time and then we split up, or
So that was a lesson learned, especially with California Adventure Park, because that one's not as kid friendly as Disneyland Park is. Whereas Disneyland, most of the kids in our party could ride. There was maybe like a couple that couldn't ride.
You can only ride Toy Story Mania and the Monsters Inc. ride so many times.
Right, at the Little Mermaid. Well,
Little
heck,
Mermaid.
I could ride Little Mermaid all day. That's a great attraction just to like chill and just relax as it moseys on through. Like, I think I rode that one 3 or 4 times on this trip.
Come on, you didn't ride the Luigi ride? The car dancing.
that
well,
ride
most
was
of the
always
time-
close.
Well, so I don't think anybody rode Luigi's this trip. None of us rode Luigi's. We always kind of told people it's more fun to watch than it is to ride.
It's so miserable to ride. You're like, my back. I'm like,
Yeah. Last time I was there, like, it was always shut down, and then randomly I saw one night it was open the last hour of the park, and I was like, why?
Yeah. So, but with California Adventure, like, it was more difficult to keep everyone together because it's the thrill park. That's where all the big thrill rides are. And I can only make my 4-year-old go on Guardians once before he's like, I'm done. Although he was really cute about it. Like, he wasn't crying or yelling or freaking out. He was just sitting there like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this.
yeah, it'll be another 4 or 5 years before you get him back on that one.
I think the arrangement we're making is that, like, when we go to the park, you have to ride the ride at least once per visit, so that they get used to it. Because my other son, he rode Indiana Jones again. He didn't like it last time. This time it became his favorite ride.
It's a great ride.
So it's one of those things that, like, we're trying to get them used to riding these things, which I was surprised my wife was able to convince him to go ride the Incredicoaster.
Wow.
Your wife's persuasive with the kids.
Well, she's
always
bribed
been
him.
good about
She bribed him
with negotiating.
She bribed him with a very expensive Spider-Bot toy.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the big souvenirs, right?
Yeah, very, very expensive, fancy toy that, we negotiated that him ride Guardians again, that he would get a small one. And he's like, well, I want the big one. And I was like, well, that's an Incredicoaster prize. And so that's how she got him to go ride it, which he actually,
Did he enjoy it?
he enjoyed it more than Guardians.
Okay.
He kept his eyes closed the whole time.
That's okay.
But he rode it. He didn't even realize. He's like, did we go through a loop? And he goes, yep. And he goes, I thought we were just going straight the whole time. It's like, yep. So he didn't even realize, because he had his eyes closed the whole time, apparently.
Did he just do that ride once?
He just did it once.
Yeah.
But he got his prize. But yeah. But
So when did the group start splintering off?
it was
and-
basically, so like on the second day, like we did Soarin' first, because I hate that standby line. It is
it's
one of
bad.
the worst standby lines in the park, in my opinion. So we got that one knocked out early. Then we were gonna go
Is this
over.
soaring over the world?
Yes. And so then we went over to Paradise Pier, where we did the Incredicoaster. And then after Incredicoaster, after some kids rode it like 3 or 4 times, because there was no line first thing in the morning, so they rode it like 3 or 4 times. I said, all right, let's start heading this direction. And that's when we started getting pushback. And they're like, oh, we want to do this, we want to do that. And so we started breaking off a little bit at that point. Actually, no, wait. No, I'm sorry. That was Thursday that happened at that point. We actually made our way around the pier. Toy Story was closed. They were down, so we didn't ride that one that day. And we went around. I think we got in line for Goofy's Sky School, then we did Little Mermaid, and then we had lunch.
What'd you guys eat?
In the Pacific Wharf area.
Everyone's got
lots of choices.
Yeah.
I ate at the Lucky Fortune cookie. My wife got her soup bowl. Yeah. The bread bowl.
Got a great memory with us there, Jackie. I won't share it, but like there was a fun memory that I have of you at that soup bowl place when we went. It was. I won't share it, but I just remember I always have a special memory there. Okay. I'll tell you after the air and stuff like that.
Yeah, we won't make that public.
You know what I'm talking about? There's just like there's certain memories in certain parts of the park where like that shall remain off.
I think I remember, but I don't remember you being there for that. So.
All right, so you went there and everyone had a choice there. I was wondering where you take 20 plus people.
So then
to eat
from there, I think from there we went and did Guardians, and then we were going to try to do Spider-Man. But Spider-Man
Were you disappointed with Spider-Man like everybody else? Like, you guys, like, Dad...
It was okay. Dad hated it,
He's
but...
like, this is garbage.
So, I went in... I knew what it was beforehand. So, I knew...
no hype.
I had my expectations, and I set the group's expectations where they were.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the ride. I thought it was fun. I got into it. It was a lot of fun doing the thing. And you work as a team. You
enjoy moving your hands.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Is it worth an hour and a half wait? No. It's not worth the hour and a half wait. So it's one of those like, maybe it might be worth spending the $7 a person, saving yourself a churro a person, to go ride the ride.
Churros. I don't know.
It's a hard sacrifice. I might talk about the churros later because I tried a variety of different.
Did you try
churros.
the sour churro that I've heard that's out there? We'll get to it.
We'll get to that. We'll talk about that. But we did Guardians. I think it was basically after Guardians. Then we went. Spider-Man was too long, and we didn't want to wait in that. So then we. Like, all right, let's bite the bullet. Let's get in Radiator Springs. And that's when, after that's when people started, like, wanting to do their own things. Which, at that point, I was okay with.
You've done everything.
We had pretty much done most of the attractions. So everyone wanted to go ride Guardians, like, 15 times.
I could see your in-laws getting like, we're getting pretty tired. Let's sit here and just chill.
And that's when, like, we went to the Cozy Cone, ate some food, and we kind of moseyed around a little bit there. But it was basically that kind of set the tone going forward for the rest of the trip. Was that moment when, after we waited in a long line of cars, that people were like, "We're done. We're gonna do our own thing now." And that was a theme that lasted the rest of the week. So,
we've done our family obligatory
pretty much
of sticking together. Now let's go.
Like, no, there were still more family obligations still required. Like my father-in-law, he didn't get a chance to ride his favorite ride yet, which was Soarin'. He didn't show up first thing in the morning. He showed up a little bit later.
Gotcha. They wanted everybody there.
Right, and so that happened later on where we.
Did they do the oranges there?
They do different scents. They don't do oranges.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't do.
It's kind of my tradition.
I know.
That's my tradition with my wife. It's like, it smells like oranges.
No, they still have like the sea smell and things like that.
The wood kind of.
But yeah. That's basically when things started breaking apart.
So Wednesday,
for the rest of the week.
Monday, Disneyland. Tuesday, California. What was Wednesday?
Wednesday was Disneyland.
Disneyland.
Again.
Okay.
And
Anything special that day?
So that day, because we didn't get a chance to ride Rise, because Rise was closed for like half the day
there's
on
no way of
Monday.
getting it. So you
And
just have
so-
Fast Pass just taking over.
Yeah.
And so this is what happened. So we get to the park. First thing, we go ride Indiana Jones. We get that one knocked out.
Because you never know when it's going to break down.
Yes.
It's more, that's what it is. Open, let's do it.
And
Yeah.
it's one of those things. I saw something, and there were a lot of people in my party saw the same thing, and we're all going, "You are wasting your money." Rope drop, Indiana Jones, people using their lightning lanes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, there's
Why?
no one in line.
Yeah.
Why are you wasting your lightning
That's fine.
lane? I know
Sorry.
the cast members. They don't care.
No.
They don't care that you're wasting your. I would normally give, like, if
I
there was
always
a
gave heads up. You don't need that.
right,
Save it.
like there was a situation where like they would give me their fast pass tickets at Tower, and there was no one in standby, so I'm like, just hold on to it for later. Go.
That's when you had the option of coming back and not the strict times.
Right.
Right. And
We come from a different era.
Yes, we do.
and those for me, like who purchase, Genie Plus, I'm like, yes, use it in the morning so that way I can do it at night and there's no line.
Yeah.
Right, and so then we did
Stupid guess.
Indy, which honestly that was probably one of the most fun times I had in the large group because like not all of us were there first thing in the morning, and so basically the entire party that was riding, we took an entire car.
Nice.
Oh,
And
fun.
it was so
Who was the driver?
much fun. It was one of my nieces that I had just met on this trip.
Oh, it's always fun to be
Okay.
the driver and like really like
Banana did it later that week.
she would be good.
Yeah, she's got her driver's permit. So,
Whoa.
so she had to drive.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
grown up.
yeah. But like
Banana
that was,
is code for another name I don't know.
that's right.
There's Peter
On
has
the podcast, it's banana.
it's Banana, but like
She knows who she is.
she knows who she is. Like ever since I met her, she like told me her name, and I was like Banana, and I've always called her that for like the last 10 years, and it still goes on.
Yes.
She calls me Captain Kangaroo. She
That's
asked me
right.
what my name was, and I'm like, I'm Captain Kangaroo. She has no reference to that. A lot of people don't.
I don't even know I've heard of the name. I don't even understand the reference. So
So it's just a thing. So when we say banana, it's
yes.
an old inside joke
Yes.
that all our podcasters know about it now.
Most of
Yes.
them, yeah. So yeah, we did that, and then after that, we went over to Star Wars Land, and we're like, okay, let's just bite the bullet, let's get it done because it's worth it.
Yeah.
And like even we had hesitant people like, it's a long line, is it really worth it? Like, yes, it's worth it. We're gonna stick it out. We're gonna do it now, and we waited in the line. And we got through in shorter time than the wait time for it,
It always
says.
is.
Yes.
For that attraction, I would agree.
It's a great way to really make guests angry is give them a time and it's not that time.
Space Mountain. Space Mountain is rough when it comes to that standby time.
Oh no, you can get up the pathway and you see what the train's at, and they've got the extended queue, and you're like, nope, I'm good. I'll walk down.
Yeah, it's like you go, oh, it's not that bad up here, but they halt that line for anyone using Lightning Lane, so like you don't move for long periods of time on that ride. Which I've got another story about that later, but I've got a lot of later
It
stories.
almost like you want
I
to tell
know.
guests to like have somebody in your party just be like, all right, I need you to wait right here. Act like you're a manager,
right.
and then just like wait right here. All right, you guys have your passes, but like act like you're like official, and then like you could just have the queue run through and be like, okay, you guys could go. All right, you guys could go. Just like kind of like milk the situation a little bit where they're all together and you get them on, then you can
Right.
jump through.
But
I'm basically telling you, I want you to commit Disney
right,
fraud.
Yeah.
right.
Disney
Break
fraud.
the rules.
You want me-
There's
Yeah.
no rules that tell guests to stop and like, let me see your pass. Is there something on the ticket? I mean, I'm not telling them I'm a manager. I'm just asking them to like, hey, just wait here. Like, people always think Father Yodeler is a worker there.
Oh, totally.
They always think he's a manager, and they're always asking questions, and Dad can always answer their questions.
Yeah.
You know, and so I would do that.
Just
Dad.
pull out your old cast member badge.
Oh no, then you're committing a rule. Then you're breaking a rule.
I got in trouble one trip to Disney a long time ago where
Use
my
this as a
parents,
pen.
I had the tour guide pen,
Oh, yeah,
I was
yeah.
wearing the tour guide pin, and the cast member manager came up to me and said, "You need to take that off because you'll get in trouble." Oh no, I did also have my cast member pin from Walt Disney World on. I did have that on.
Yeah, they don't want you.
You're going to
being a cast
confuse the
member.
guest, and it's all like, okay, I understand. So I took it off, but
All right. So let's go into. Okay, so we'll do quick pros going with a big group.
I just want to know Thursday and Friday. Where'd you
yeah.
go?
So Thursday was California Adventure, and then
And
Friday
finished on
was
Disneyland.
Magic Kingdom. Which Monday through Thursday the parks were open from 8 to 8,
Okay.
except Friday was 8 to 11. So
Okay. All right. So pros going with a big group.
you get to hang out with a lot of different people.
So you don't get sick of it.
Right. You get
The
to
same
have
group.
you get to have lots of different conversations. You know, like you spend a lot of time with these people. So like, and
As opposed to when we go, we're like, I bought my book. Don't
Right.
talk to me.
Right.
I've lived with you for 20 plus years.
Right.
I'm done.
right. So like,
We'll
it's-
engage on the ride.
So
Until then.
the waiting in line is a little bit more enjoyable because like you can be like, I haven't seen this person all trip. I'm gonna go hang out with them for a little bit. You know, there's always someone new to hang out and talk with, or people want to ask you questions or whatnot. So I got to know a lot of my members of the family a little better this trip.
So there was also people that were not part of the family that
They're
were
part of the-
adopted,
they're
but they were
part of-
adopted
they're-
into the family.
They're adopted
How
members. of
did
the
they
family.
mesh well?
Oh,
with
they
everybody?
meshed perfectly. Like they were just.
They're
part
great
of the family.
people. I've met them. They're fun. So they everyone.
They were great. Like
Okay.
they.
It's hard when you're like, we're the outsiders.
Yeah.
Well, the thing
My
is,
name, we're outsiders.
their kids meshed with their kids like they were besties.
That's
you
great.
know, and so like they would want to ride rides together. Sort of.
I remember
thing.
having that experience, like making a best friend at Disneyland and riding rides, like while waiting for Fantasmic and stuff. They were at our uncle's and aunt's wedding.
Yeah.
We met them like we were in the park at the same time, and then we were at the wedding, and it's like we're best friends.
Right.
I wish I knew his name. Not a very good best friend.
But so yeah, that was no issue there. I mean, yeah, it was just that there was no question as to like why are they here. No, they're part of the family.
Yeah,
honestly, like they meshed well. Everyone wanted to talk with them as well. They didn't feel excluded or anything
That's
like
good.
that. So
I'm glad to hear.
it all meshed well, great with them.
So what are the cons of going with a big group?
So this is something that if you are going to go to a Disney park with a large group of people, you need to keep this in mind. You need to have expectations set beforehand as to what the plan is. Are you all going to stay together the whole time? Or are you going to break off for some of the day and meet up later? That expectation needs to be met. Otherwise, you might deal with certain situations where people are like, well, I wanted to hang out with this person, but they wanted to go ride Guardians for the 15th time, and I can only handle it once per trip, sort of situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Physiologically, I can only handle it.
Right. It's not that it's a bad ride. Like, I'm talking about myself here in this situation. I rode it once. I'm like, it was fun, but that was it for me for the trip. Yeah. So if that expectation is set that it's like, okay, we're going to hang out for a few hours and then at lunch we'll break off and then we'll meet up after dinner, like those expectations need to be met beforehand so that nobody feels blindsided when people are like, oh, we're heading out, bye, and you don't know if you're ever going to see them for the rest of the night. So that's something we did on Thursday. It was my father-in-law's birthday, and he wanted to ride Soarin' with his whole family. So he says, go ride all the rides you want. We'll meet back here at 4 o'clock, and we'll go ride Soarin'. And we did that, and that was great. So come into it with a plan, because depending on the age variance, because we had the full spectrum of up to a 2-year-old to all the way up to a 60-some-year-old person.
Mm-hmm.
We had the whole spectrum of ages. So especially if you're doing California Adventure or, more extreme rides multiple times or not, you're going to have those separations. in groups. So as long as you set that expectation beforehand, you're going to enjoy your trip with your family. But you got to make sure if there is a member of the family or part of the group that you want to spend time with, you let them know beforehand, hey, this is what I want to do with you, so that, everyone is on the same page.
So where you're, wanting to ride the canoe with someone you don't like and you can push them in. But
Right.
Sucks to suck.
Right. Like, because there was a few situations like on Wednesday where people were asking me like, oh, what should we do next? And I'm like, well, we just rode, Space Mountain or the Matterhorn. Let's do something for everyone. Let's go. We can break into 2 teams because I didn't want to force everyone to go see Mr. Lincoln. But I was like, we can break into 2 teams. We can do Tiki Room and Mr. Lincoln, because I was going to go see Mr. Lincoln this trip no matter what. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is my time. And it was in the middle of the day. But then everyone's like, no, we don't want to do, we want to do Rise. I was like, all right, then Jungle Cruise. We haven't done that yet. So it's one of those things that, like, there needs to, if you are staying together, you need a leader. Otherwise, it's all going to fall into chaos and people will start getting upset about what we're doing and what we're not doing in the parks. Also, when it comes to food, just say free for all. And just say, like, it's lunchtime, go find food.
Yeah.
Most of the time we stayed in the same general area, but it was just go find food.
Just eat where you want.
Right.
All right, speaking of food, you mentioned
churros.
I'm ready.
What food? Tell us your food experiences.
So I'm not a big foodie, but I really wanted to try a lot of different foods and things like that. I didn't try as much as I wanted, but I did try a variety of different treats that I will mention. We'll start with the churros. The first churro I will mention was the lemon bar churro.
Ooh.
Love a tart.
I'm not a big fan of lemon bars, but this one was okay.
Nice.
It had the lemon frosting on there with the powdered sugar, and it was good. Was it great? No, but I know some people that loved it. So
tart.
I had a pineapple churro or like a Dole Whip churro. So good. So good.
The highlight churro of the park was the peanut butter cheesecake churro.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Was it like drizzle or was it filled, like a filling in the churro?
So it was drizzled.
Okay.
So like the cheesecake thing was drizzled, and they had like chocolate chips on top, and so you got it at the cozy cone. It was so good. I couldn't tell you how many of those. I probably ate 3 or 4 of those. Like, those were so good. You have to the only way you can get it is by mobile ordering it too. That was the only way to get that churro. Then we got classic churro. So I saw the line for the sour cherry churro in front of the castle, and I wanted it, but there was always like 10, 15 people in line.
That's what I heard. That's the big one that's popped up.
And and I was all like, I wanted to try it, but the line was always too long for it.
Especially in a big group, you can't be like,
right.
Hey guys, churro time.
Right. And so, and I came home and I watched somebody's review on it, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And I was like, no, I missed it. Because I'm a big fan of sour. I like sour things. So
That's true.
I thought I would enjoy that one, but that one escaped my grasp. My wife liked the loaded whip that they had at the Tropical Hideaway. They didn't have the one I liked. They had the one my wife liked, and I had other family members that bought. I had one family member that probably bought like 3 or 4 of them. That's how much he liked it. Had the tahine on it. Very spicy Dole Whip, basically. Very good if you like that Mexican style flavoring of sweets.
You mean the ruiner of candy?
No,
I'm not saying. There's just like every kid experiences that, like, oh, what's this? And then you're like, this is a candy.
This is like chili.
It's chili powder and I don't know, a popsicle or not.
Yeah.
So if you're not expecting it, it hits you and you're like, what is this?
Right. So I wasn't necessarily a big fan of it, but a lot of members
I know a lot of
party
people love that type of.
Yes.
Do you have the shawarma?
No.
Oh. for our fellow listeners, get the shawarma at California Adventure and Marvelland. So good. Breakfast or lunch, it's so good.
They got 2 locations, so yep, there's that option. I'm trying to think here. Some of the other I really liked. We ate the cozy cone and we had the chili in a cone, chili cone queso. That was really good.
Yep.
I didn't really care for the mac and cheese, but I'm not a big melted cheese person, so a lot of people really like that. Had a few different meals over a lot of the different foods we ate was in California Adventure, but obviously big favorite amongst a lot of Disney fans are the beignets.
Yep.
So good. I would say a pro tip: avoid the ones in the park and go to Jazz Kitchen and go to their express
downtown?
kitchen at downtown Disney, because for the price of like 3 you can get like 10 over at the Jazz Kitchen.
And it's the
Same
same.
recipe.
It's a little different. I think the Jazz Kitchen's a little thicker,
Oh, okay.
but you're basically getting the same thing. But they don't come in Mickey shapes; they're just squares.
It's fine.
So I think they had hearts because they were doing Valentine's, so they had the heart-shaped beignets at Disneyland. They had we didn't try their specialty one. At least I don't think I tried the specialty one. It was like the buttered cookie beignet.
Pass.
People tend to like.
Yeah.
People
Keep it
liked
simple.
it. People liked it, but
I remember when I went to New Orleans. It's like I gotta eat a beignet.
Yeah.
And that one was there in the little square.
my wife, she was adamant about eating at Bengal Barbecue several times this trip.
It's just one of those places
It's a
we've
classic.
done.
It's
just,
good.
It's so expensive.
I would say this:
Yes.
it's not a meal.
No.
It is not a meal. Don't treat it like a meal.
But you'll pay as if it's a meal.
Because you'll pay like it's a meal.
Yep.
That's why, don't treat it like a meal because you'll spend so much more money.
No, you gotta go to New Orleans. You get your money's worth there. Or
Honestly,
the Mexican restaurant.
The food that was the most filling and satisfying was the Ronto wrap.
Oh, I like the Ronto wrap.
And the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the Star Wars Land, they have the Ronto wrap. It's basically a hot dog on pita with coleslaw.
It's really good, though.
It's very filling for what you're paying for. So, if you need something to, fill your belly that tastes good, that's going to last you a good amount, the Ronto wrap is the way forward. We did try their, fried tip yip, something like that.
Yep.
That they had.
Is it made out of real stormtroopers?
Tastes just like chicken.
Stormtroopers or the meal?
Yes. But yeah.
Okay, so let's go into lines
Yes.
now.
You took some data.
What was the longest line you waited in?
Well, easily. Honestly, it's probably Cars. I think
Oh,
Cars.
How long
Cars,
was that?
I didn't
Oh,
measure.
okay.
I didn't measure the time of.
Do you
the full-
remember
no.
how long the wait time? Do you remember what they said the wait time was?
So this is one thing that's hard with large groups, is trying to do things by what the wait time says, because the wait times are rarely correct.
Yes.
And my party realized that with Guardians of the Galaxy. They rode that one so many times because it kept saying high waits, but there wasn't a wait. So it's one of those things, the wait time might only be accurate if it was just updated and you're standing right in front of it. That's basically the only time that wait time is actually truly accurate. Because I got caught in a situation where Space Mountain reopened, I was right next to it, and it said 20 minutes. No, I waited an hour for that thing.
No.
So
No. Yeah.
no, that was probably my last regret. It was definitely the last regret of the trip. But yeah, that was definitely the longest line. I did want to do a little experiment because a lot of times, you go on YouTube, you see these people, they're like, "Oh, this is how long this wait time is. This is how long I waited. This is how much time you save on FastPass compared to standby." And the thing is, those numbers that they always give out is always
so vague and determinate on the season, the day, the hour, the year. Like,
There's variables that
There's
are not
so many
taken into
variables.
account.
right. And so I wanted to see, and the thing is, like, and I even listened to, in one of my YouTubers, which I actually did get to meet, I met Fresh Baked.
Oh, he's always there.
Uh,
I've seen him twice at the park.
I got a picture with him
Oh,
at
awesome.
We were getting off at Galaxy's Edge. You could tell he was
So
measuring
you go
weight.
fanboy on him?
I didn't, but the adopted member of my family said, like, you're going to get a picture with him right now, and I'm going to take it. And so she
Aw.
got us all together to take a picture with him. So I got a picture with him.
Well, send me the picture. I'll tag it on
Sure.
Instagram.
I'll send you the picture. But he was measuring time without waiting in line. So he would pick a person and wait for them to leave the attraction, and that's how.
Boy,
he
it must be
measured
nice
it.
to have that much time in the park.
I know. Well, he's a full timer. I didn't have that luxury.
Yeah.
So I wanted to measure, and they always say the same things, like, oh, the wait time after the merge is always the same, but they never say what it is. Like, what's the wait from the point, Lightning Lane and Standby combined, when it's just pure wait from that
For
point
everybody.
for everyone.
Yeah.
Because the line might say it's a 35-minute wait for Indiana Jones.
But how much is that?
How much of that am I waiting behind Lightning Lane, and how much of that is like just a straight line? And so, and I had a lot of family every time I was in a queue, and this goes to like having this discussion with multiple members of the family where I'm talking about what I'm measuring. And so, and I did this for at least all the ones that I rode, all the rides that have Lightning Lane. And some of them, for the most part, a lot of them, they tried to be around that 5-minute range. So from the point you cross into that merge point, it was about a 5-minute wait for most attractions. So like Buzz Lightyear was about 3-4 minutes. Space Mountain, 6 minutes from the point of merge.
Really?
Wow.
6 minutes from the point and that was twice. I measured that twice, and they were both 6 minutes.
So you're just walking right on. Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Right on from the point of merge. Millennium Falcon, I kind of got split results here, so I would say about 10 minutes on Millennium Falcon.
And just to recap, these are wait times.
From
Wh-
this is
af-
everybody, no matter what, will wait that
Yeah.
time.
Correct. Big Thunder, 5 minutes.
Yeah, that one makes sense.
Yeah.
That one's about 5-minute wait from the point of merge. Guardians was 15 minutes. So,
Okay.
because the point of merge happens before you enter the library or the study, I think they call it, the study. And there you have to wait in that boiler room, which is the most excruciating experience in a queue, in my opinion, is waiting in that boiler room, or
Yeah.
whatever they call it now.
I think Radiator Springs is the most miserable line for me.
Yeah.
How long do you think the merge point for Radiator Springs is?
I would say 10 minutes.
Oh, probably 5.
5 minutes. That was what I got for 5 minutes.
So it's worth the money on that one.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, for cars, if your party's okay with it, go single rider. Because,
Yeah.
yes, it's 5 minutes at the point of merge, but there's still a lot of people paying for Fast Pass. So you're still waiting behind all those people.
True.
So Matterhorn and Radiator Springs, go single rider. You'll get right on. Almost right on. That would be my suggestion for those two attractions. So yeah, that was 5 minutes for Radiator Springs. Rise of the Resistance was 12 minutes from the point of merge. So basically
Where's merge on that?
without getting into too many spoilers, you're briefing with Ray.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, I haven't-
basically merge.
Yeah, don't spoil that one. I haven't been on that one yet.
That's about as non-spoiler as I can get. That's the point of merge, is at that point.
Okay.
So you skip a lot of queue
Yes.
with that lightning lane.
You skip you skip all of the queue basically.
Pretty much. As I said, like it's the start. The lightning lane gets you to the start of that experience. So, Spider-Man, I only rode it once, but that was about a 10-minute wait from the point of merge. So keep that in mind. If it says it's a 40-minute wait, that's about 30 minutes of standby you're looking at. So, Toy Story, 4 minutes I had. Which, that was a long line for standby.
Toy Story is miserable with
Lightning
Lane.
that was pretty bad. Soarin', 15 minutes from the point of merge. That's another long wait even after.
We'll have this
Lightning
data on our social media as
Yeah,
well.
we'll put it out there. Indiana Jones, this one was harder for me to do because I always did this at rope drop. So, but where we stopped was pretty consistent in my opinion of where we would normally stop if there was a queue on the inside portion. So it was about 15 minutes.
Okay.
15-minute wait inside. Point of merge, and this is very important. Point of merge is right at the front door of the temple.
So there's no line.
Yeah, if you don't see a line outside.
Yes. Or if the line is not that long, just jump in standby, save your lightning lane for later when it is wrapped.
Yeah, that
around.
ride's line was not designed for fast pass. It's the last.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the last one I have is Small World for 5 minutes.
But it's the most miserable line.
Yeah, you had.
Okay.
You said miserable.
All right,
for
so
It's a
this is
Small
what
World.
happened. So Small World was closed all week because they were removing the holiday overlay. It reopened on that Friday, our last day.
Wow.
Okay. We did this after our lunch. Like, okay, like they all asked me, what are we going to do? And said, well, let's do Small World. So we all got into the queue for Small World, which...
And this is when they turned on you. They're like, now we're doing our own track.
Yeah, it did. It totally did. I turned on myself. So,
How
like,
could you do this to them?
a lot of bad things happened. Parade dump
Ooh.
happened right as soon as we got there. Parade dump happened, and yeah, it was just like horrible. Like we had people leave the queue to go get ice cream and come back in the queue. Like, yeah, like it was a long experience. We were
I'm waiting
probably
for drones to be flying their queue, selling things like a baseball
getting
game.
there.
It was easily the hottest day of the week. So the sun was beating on. There wasn't as much shade in the extended queue for Small World.
There's a lot of cement in that area, so it
Yes.
just collects a lot of heat.
So we were all getting super hot. People were getting mad at each other. Like, Small World queue broke our party. Like, half of us didn't even ride the ride. Like, halfway through, some were like, we're all going to go to the Matterhorn. And part of me was all like, take me with you. Like, part of me felt that way. But, you know, I wanted to ride It's a Small World. One, for I can get this data. And two, you know, I love It's a Small World. I wanted to ride it. And my kids all loved it. And everyone that rode the ride, the kids that rode the ride all really enjoyed the
Oh,
ride.
that's great.
Including
For the kids.
There was a young baby that was singing the music afterward. It was really cute. So it was a nice, enjoyable ride. It was good, but it broke the entire party that stuck it out. Like, people got in fights.
Do you remember how long the wait was overall?
It was definitely over an hour.
Oof, that's a.
I don't think I've ever waited an hour.
No.
I think 30 minutes and I was getting
It
a
was-
little... I was losing it.
It was excruciating waiting in that queue. So, like, that definitely after that point, I was all like, Lightning Ling's worth it. But basically, after Small World, my spirit was almost broken. And keep in mind, this is after I had already spent 4 days prior. So this was my 5th
You're
day.
exhausted.
I was
you're
already
done.
tired. And then after that point, we're like, okay, what are we going to do? And then I suggested the same thing I did before, where I was like, all right, let's do... Because I knew there were people in my party that did want to see Mr. Lincoln, and people that didn't. So I said, and people hadn't seen the Tiki Room yet. So I said, let's do
And
the
then
split.
Mr. Lincoln was a 2-hour wait.
Yeah.
I hate you, Peter!
And then we got into a situation where, like, more people wanted to do Tiki Room, but they also wanted to do that. So they said, well, we'll do Mr. Lincoln at night. I was like, okay, fine. So we all went. So I went and we had already separated at that point because some wanted to ride the train, and you can't take the strollers and wheelchairs on the train.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of us huffed it down, and I huffed it down to Main Street. The other one took it to Tiki Room. And then I get a call when I'm waiting for them, and they're like, we're just all going to do Tiki Room. We'll do Mr. Lincoln later. And at that point, like, I was, like, upset because I hadn't seen Mr. Lincoln yet.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
You're
it's
not
the end of the
losing
trip.
it.
I was not happy. I was definitely in a tude. And then I get to Tiki Room, and, like, only 4 people show up.
Where's everybody else?
They're waiting in line for Dole Whips.
Oh.
And doing other things.
Yeah. Here's your stroller. Throw it.
Yeah, it was just like, I was just like done. And then after that, like, I think we went to get dinner, and then there was a part where my wife thought she lost her wallet. Oh, we did pictures in front of the castle.
There's
and
stress
my wife thought she lost her wallet, fell out by the castle. So I was over there, flashlight, looking for it in the dark, and it was just in the side pocket of the backpack, and I was like, I was in a mood. And so at that
This
point,
is the time to apologize to your wife.
oh, I definitely already apologized, but I told her, she says, I need me time right now. And so I left her, and I went to single
And
rider.
we've gotten a divorce. I need a couch to sleep on.
The small world broke us, man. No, so then I just did single rider for Matterhorn, which
Honestly,
honestly,
single rider for Lincoln.
well, my wife said like she felt bad about the whole situation, so we went down and saw Mr. Lincoln together, and
Oh, that's nice.
it was, and after we saw Mr. Lincoln, like most of the people had already left for the night. It was like 8:00 ish at that point, but after riding Matterhorn and then seeing Mr. Lincoln, I was finally at peace. I was
Yeah.
finally like, okay, I'm in a good mood again. Like,
God
I was happy.
America.
and then Casey wanted to stay for the show, the street show with the projections on Main Street, but the kids were just done. And so I walked them to the gate, said my goodbyes, and I spent the last 2 hours on my own where I basically finished out, because I hadn't been in Tomorrowland all that day. So, like, I walked on to Buzz, I did Star Tours, and Space Mountain was down when I jumped in line for Star Tours. And then as I was getting off, it went on again. And that's when I rushed over, and I still had an hour left. I was like, oh man, I'll get Space Mountain done. It'll be great. Oh my gosh, that was...
As you walk through there, 65 minutes, you know.
It was like, it was excruciating, and it just shocked me how many people were saving their lightning lanes for the last night, for the last like hour of the day. They saved their lightning
all the
lane.
time.
We did too, but like I thought it would be different with the only having one per day.
You thought you were special.
I thought like this would be the time it would move quickly. The line didn't actually start moving until 11:00 hit, and when they were stopped letting lightning lane people in, and so.
Yeah, the best probably time to hit up, if you want Space Mountain to be your last ride, you hit it 5 minutes before, and you just like, you ride the line.
Yeah.
Because cast members plow through that line.
Yep.
Yes, they do. So I would say,
Not the last hour, the last 5 minutes.
Yep.
yeah. So like that was my last night, last ride of the night. But I did take my time walking down Main Street, doing what I normally do.
Tradition.
On my last day in Disneyland, I take the time. I go to Walt's statue and I thank Walt. I walked through the castle, through Fantasyland, because Fantasyland Peter Pan still had a queue after Space Mountain's queue cleared out. Peter Pan's queue was still going.
So you just try to jump in.
So no, I didn't jump in, but like I walked through Fantasyland a little bit, walked through the castle. You know, hung out at the hub for a moment, slowly walked down Main Street, said my goodbyes to Walt, thanked Walt for my trip, and I headed out, and that was my last day in the park.
So it's not like overall good trip.
It was a great trip. And as much as you might have heard me complain about like people breaking apart and things like it was still enjoyable. I enjoyed most of my time there. Small World broke me.
So would you say 5 days is too much?
Oh yeah, absolutely. 5 days, and I warned my. This was a decision my wife really wanted to try it. She's never done 5 days.
Yeah, we've done 5 days
It's
as our
too
family,
much.
and we were like, no, 3.
It's
3 days.
Maybe 4.
3
3
days.
to 4 is a good.
3 days is a good amount for you to feel like
You got your
you got
trip
what
for
you paid for,
Mhm.
and you still want more. Like you'll still
Yeah.
want
Fifth
more.
one's like, I'll see you in 5 years.
Yeah, we did 4 days, but we went back to the hotel and we took naps. Like, it was not like an open to close. Like, we took our time.
Weak. No.
Weak
You
or
get that from
smart.
Father Yodeler. I'm like, no, took a nap.
Well, that's what those shows are for in the middle of the day, or you jump into Pirates. You know, that's a nice 20-minute ride right there, in a nice cool building. But
You guys came back with a souvenir too, right?
we did. So my wife, throughout the trip, she was toying with the idea of getting the annual pass. So I was hesitant on it. I kind of was like, I didn't want her to make this decision spontaneously without the information, like what the pros and cons would be. And she always had a response for all my cons.
Not surprised. Your wife's pretty savvy that way.
She is. She's very smart. So she's and I'm a big Disney nerd, so it's hard for me to say no to having an annual pass, but I'm also trying to look at it from
What's the commitment, logistical aspects
Yeah.
right,
of said decision?
Gas prices increasing, hotels, we got to pay for that. Like, we got to find people to watch our dogs, and if we want to do just couples trip, then we got to find people to watch our kids, things like that. So, like, I gave her all the spiel, but there was a part of me that, like, I kind of knew what the answer was going to be, but part of me was hoping that it wasn't going to be the answer. So normally they say, if you're going to upgrade your tickets, because you can upgrade, because we had the 5-day, and if you go to tickets on your last day, you can upgrade your 5-day to a season pass to just paying the difference. And so that's what the plan was. But we had already left the park on the last day. And so it's whether or not they were going to allow us to do it the following day. And part of me was like, oh, maybe they're just going to be, technically, you can't do it. And it was going to be the end of it.
Well, I had the same thing where my wife was trying to get to a concert that's in Vegas with, like, all the bands from, like, the emo era. And, like, they opened up another day, another weekend, and I was like, oh, I really hope we don't make the wait list, just
Right.
that hope, like, yes, it'll be a great experience, but you're like, I really don't want to pay for all this.
Right. And then it came to it. We talked to the lady, and she says, yeah. And I was like, okay. So we're magic key holders is what that's called. So we will be coming back. So there'll probably be another trip report. I wanted to do some videos for our YouTube channel, but with the family, it was just
hard.
it was
It's hard with a big group.
It was hard with the big group. So the
Alone
data
managing kids who are under 10.
Right. So the data was the best I could do for you guys.
Which
but
is interesting data. So I'm excited, and we'll post this on our social media so that way you can maybe be better prepared for your future trips.
Especially now you have to take into consideration of, like, what am I willing to pay for my sanity? Like, Small World? Yeah, it sounds like I'll have to pay for that. Or Radiator Springs? Definitely paying for that.
Yeah.
It's a ride that I'm like...
Well, I mean, again, Radiator Springs, you can get away with not paying for that by doing single rider.
Yeah.
If you're okay with not riding with everyone in your party, go single rider.
Sorry, my daughter's only 2. You're riding on your own.
And that would be the thing. Like,
And so you did the no Genie Plus.
we did no Genie Plus,
And-
but going forward, like, I would have said, yes, let's do Genie Plus, but again, I was not going to ask every member
with
of our
a big
party
group, but
to do it.
next time you go when it's just your family.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. Like, I've been spoiled with how FastPass worked in the past. And
You've been
like,
groomed for the last 20 years.
it was definitely an eye awakening of like how much time
Is
you save with that system. Because if I had that this trip, like, you could easily do Disneyland in a single day.
yeah.
Everything you could possibly want to do in Disneyland, you can do with the Lightning.
It's
Lanes.
true.
Like, even if you just did standby for Rise of the Resistance and did it for everything else, you know, yeah. So that would be my takeaway when it comes to Lightning Lane. Like, can you do Disneyland without it? Yes, you can do most of Disneyland without the Lightning Lane if it's a financial struggle, and you can still enjoy your time. But if you're trying to accomplish everything, you're going to overwork yourself. You will find yourself more exhausted, and you won't be in the best mindset. I was fortunate enough that I was be in the parks for 5 days, so it didn't matter to me if I missed it one day. I could always go back the next day and make that the priority. But if you're only going for one day, take it. You're going, like, I know, like, it's a sacrifice. It's an expensive sacrifice. But even if, like, for example, you go for 3 days and you only do it for one day, it'll save you some sanity, honestly. Like, I mean, I would say do it for, even though they don't have as many attractions, I would say do it on the California Adventure Day. If you're there for 3 days, do it on the California Adventure Day if you can only do it once. Because Disneyland, like, you'll have 2 days to cover what you want to cover in the park. Whereas California Adventure, most people only do 1 day there. Because honestly, on my second day at California Adventure, I hardly did anything that day. I maybe rode like 4 or 5 rides that day.
Ooh.
But because we did a lot of chill and just relaxing because we had been there all week. And so we were taking it easy because we knew Friday, for me, was a long day because it was closed at 11.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was great information on your Disney trip, and I'm excited to hear future Disney trips and get more content.
Yes.
We've got a magic key holder in the Yodlers. So that's awesome. So we'll have all of this, like the data we discussed and pictures.
Yeah, I'll try to get those out.
Yep, on our social media. So really make sure you're following us on Instagram, on Facebook, and you know, we're on mostly all streaming platforms, so
you name it, we're probably on it. If we're not on it, let us know and we'll get on it.
Yeah, basically. So
we're not on Wolf Dog podcasts. We'll get on Wolf Dog podcast. I don't know if that's a thing, but it probably is.
Yeah.
No, that's a cryptocurrency.
Oh, it's cryptocurrency. Wolf Dog.
That's how it goes.
All right. Anything else we're missing?
I think that's it for now.
All right.
I'll save my other stories for another episode.
Yeah,
maybe.
we'll have another episode. All right. Well, have a magical day.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Matterhorn Yodelers. Please remember, before your bobsled comes to a complete stop, to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember...
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.